Well, hi, James. Thank you so much for giving me some time. And actually, my students, I know they'll be excited to hear what you have to say. And um, as part of this series on practitioners who are really on the front lines and working in student affairs and areas within higher ed. Anyways, I thought maybe if you'd be willing to get started, just share a little bit about your journey in higher ed and how you ended up
Mhm.
where you are today.
Okay. As far as my journey in higher education, I graduated in 2008 with my bachelor's from Auburn University in mass communication. I had aspirations of being a reporter. In 2008, the economy plummeted. Um, and with that, I had to seek other options. But actually, prior to that, it wasn't just an off the wall decision for me to go into higher ed. I was very involved as a student leader. I had some mentors who even told me that I needed to go into higher education. But being first generation and trying to articulate that to my parents, they didn't really understand, with graduate school, how are you going to pay for that? What does higher education mean? Are you trying to be a principal? They really didn't get it. So I just stuck with my path of being an aspiring reporter. So with that, back to the economy piece, I cast a wide net within the Southeast region. News stations were doing hiring freezes. So they were kind of keeping what they had. And then I did get an offer for a position for a small news station in Augusta, Georgia. And with that, they said that you will be doing not only production, but you'll be doing sales, you'll be doing the media, you'll be doing all these other things. So I'll be doing the work of three different people with the pay of like half a person. And the person that offered me the job simply told me he really liked my credentials and just truly felt that I could do something more than that and didn't want to shortchange me. So I was very impressed that he said that to me. And so immediately, I was still at Auburn University working during the summer in our board of trustees office, and the university president had a talk with me, and he would continuously ask me how was I doing with my job search, and was always pushing me to go into higher ed. And I told him, about that conversation. So he's like, I think that's the sign that you need to go ahead and get your master's. So I went ahead and applied, got my master's in higher education, held graduate assistantships in learning communities and in student life, working with student government. So I advised student government for a number of years professionally at Auburn University. I moved to the University of South Carolina, where I worked in posts such as TRIO programs with Upper Bound, student success / academic support, early alert and intervention, and then my previous post working in University 101 with faculty development. So all those experiences culminated to help me see the student experience from their admission through graduation, whether it was from a social standpoint or academic standpoint. So my current post now is the Director of Student Retention at Benedict College, which is, I'm the, inaugural person within that position who's tasked to bring together all of academic support and to be that person that assists in academic concerns for students. That is something that has not existed here before, and to just figure out how our strategy is meeting the growing need of this student demographic.
Very good. Do you feel like there's a certain population of students that you enjoy supporting through their academic journey, and why are you drawn to this particular population?
Yeah, I would first and foremost have to say I have a strong passion for helping first generation college students. That's going to be my dissertation. That is what I'm engaged in on the national landscape with the Center for First Generation Student Success through NASPA and so forth. So that has been my calling, is to work with students who fall within that range. So at the University of South Carolina, I taught TRIO sections, and as I mentioned, I worked in TRIO professionally as well. So coming here to Benedict, that constitutes a large percentage of the students. So many of them are Pell eligible, would not be here if it were not for scholarships and so many other things. So that population is near and dear to my heart. So working at this institution, I'm able to see that to scale and assist those students.
Thank you. Um, James, what have you done to build strong faculty partnerships in your various roles in student affairs and higher education?
Yeah, to build strong faculty partnerships, I think is really just listening and understanding lingo, um, immersing yourself in their challenges with students, their points of pride with students, and just having a holistic conversation about that. I think I'm able to bridge that gap because I've worked on the ground level advising students, teaching students in seminar courses and just working with them. So helping to bridge the gap on understanding for both parties, I think has helped. So for helping students to understand, you know, this is how you need to talk to your instructor, and also helping faculty understand that you can't jump to conclusions and make assumptions because we need to unpack what the student may potentially be going through that can be impeding upon their success in your class. So really just bridging the gap and just seeking mutual understanding and understanding both sides of the story. And for me, honestly, kind of living in the gray, not really, being on one side or the other sometimes. It's just, okay, this is what could be happening on both sides and how do you start the conversation, because that's one of the things that I think is missing out of that equation, is that most people just jump to a conclusion without truly understanding what each other is thinking, the policies that could be impacting or impeding a student or a faculty member. So I think bridging that gap is how I do it.
That's great. Okay. Tell me what you've learned about student retention in your current position or even previous positions.
Mhm. Student retention, I will say that it is it's something that's important, but it's also a bit of a, I guess, buzzword because people will throw it out and try to tag things to retention that may not necessarily be retention related. So even in my role now, I feel like I have to be a bit of a harbinger and say that, okay, these are things that are truly important for student retention. But just because you're doing a student activity or student program doesn't necessarily align it with that always. So just really challenging people to think about the goals, think about the purpose of what they're doing, not just to, and really moving away from, I guess I would say, a culture of good intentions. Often people will say, we're doing this for the students. This is a good thing to do. Why? And that's not to be negative or anything, but it's really to get you to think critically about how is this aligning with student engagement? How is this helping to move the needle for students to have a better experience? And then also, we think of retention as academic programs. We think about it from a co-curricular and extracurricular standpoint. But the other piece to it is thinking about, facilities, operations, and processes. What are the things that impact students as they're registering for classes? What are things that are holding them up in getting the schedules that they need? Just all these other things that we have to consider that may not necessarily be a program or a service. Sometimes it's processes that we have to think about and challenge because we need our students no matter what institution we're at. So we have to make sure that we're giving them the best experience because students can talk.
Go.
Okay, so basically, what I was just saying was to really think about other factors that may not surround a program, that may not surround a service that affects students in their retention, whether it's facility related, whether it is process or technologically. We have to figure out what those things are so that they can have a smoother experience, and that's a piece of student retention as well.
Good, good, good. So, James, who's a leader that you really admire, and what do you appreciate most about this person?
Okay. Wow. There are a good bit of folks that I can say that I respect and admire in this field. Um, I would have to say immediately, Latanya Reese Miles. She is a director of first year experience at UCLA. And I've worked with her since 2014 with our work for first generation students through the National Resource Center for students in transition, first year experience in students in transition, working with their institute. And she's done a lot of innovative work and has been able to navigate various cultures to really give first gen students a voice and to brand it on a national basis, and having national communities through social media where people feel engaged to share best practices, to exchange ideas, and also has been there just to answer questions that I may have um, about um, about engaging first gen students. And really, I think just that type of fervor, purpose, and approach, I just admire that positivity while also being real as well. And that's been truly helpful to me for someone that I kind of view as like a big sister who can kind of guide me through this field, and just get that motivation. So that's been really really empowering. I think your mic is muted.
Okay, let's try this again.
Okay.
It was a good question, and I'm sorry you didn't hear it. How have you connected with colleagues of color, both personally and professionally, over the years, and what has been the most rewarding aspect?
Yeah, so connecting with colleagues of color, I will say, has been, um, I don't know, I guess I can say it's been a little bit of a challenge when I was going into new spaces. So, for instance, at the University of South Carolina, I know there I worked in trio, and just ironically, a good portion of that population consists of African American, first gen people that have really invested themselves in the work. So I think that commonality was definitely there, and that helped to not only get me ingrained in who to go to at the University of South Carolina, but also in the community because it was more of an outreach position. So that really helped me get connected. Also, I will say just at professional associations and conferences, there have been just degrees of separation with people that I know. So I think that it's always important to, when you're just having a conversation and you hear a name that you're like, that's familiar, inquire. And then sometimes that leads to this person knows this person. And I think that has really shown me how small this field is. Because I think about the times I've gone to the NASPA annual conference, or smaller conferences within NASPA, along with the FYE conference as well. Those degrees of separation definitely show up. So I'm just always looking to make connections, genuine connections with folks. And I think from just continuously putting yourself out there, serving, and whether it's volunteering at a conference, presenting, or even if you're unable to do those types of things, just find ways to get connected in some form of a community, and that can help to broaden that network.
Cool. And then what advice would you give to a graduate student who's job searching and wanting to ensure that the campus they're applying to has a strong student affairs division?
Mm. I would first say to them is that you can do student affairs work without being in a division of student affairs. I think that's one of the common misconceptions about this work. So many of us go into it thinking they want to be, they see um, the late night programming, they see the fun stuff, with students, and they really think that that's what this field solely is surrounded upon, and that's not the case. Higher education is broad. I mean, it has elements of business, it has elements of service, outreach. All those things are encompassed with that also, align with the educational purpose of an institution. So we have to think about, like, if you want to do multicultural affairs work, you may end up being in an area that is specifically diversity and inclusion and may report to a provost or a VP for academic affairs. If you're looking to do, for instance, TRIO, depending on where that's situated, that could be within a grant situated area or an outreach division or branch of an institution. So I would say just broaden your lens, and honestly, don't just think about it from a division of student affairs standpoint, but think about it from a higher education standpoint. That's one of the things that I think has helped me in my progression in the field, is that I don't just, granted, I had a student affairs concentration in my master's program, but my overall degree was higher ed admin. And then I chose to get practicum experiences with development, experiences with just other departments that I knew were vital to sustaining an institution, because a division of student affairs needs, development officers to raise funds for programs and scholarships and things for students. So I think just thinking about it from a holistic standpoint and not having that tunnel vision regarding what student affairs is can really help someone in their search.
Thank you. That's really helpful. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for your time and for talking with my students. I just really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's always good to catch up, Dottie. As a former colleague and friend, it's always great to know how things are going and to share where I am now.
Thank you.